sure my phone is off.
This is Donna, and I would like to welcome you to another fabulous episode of You Were Designed for Greatness. Today, I have a guest. Her name is Susan Barber, and I think she goes by Sue. So I would like to introduce her to you and have her say hello and tell us about you.
Hi, thank you for having me, Donna. Yes, I usually go by Sue. I am an executive coach, and I help all kinds of leaders in corporate help them become more visible. Some of this stemmed from my own story of thinking I was visible, thinking I was working really hard, and that was going to be enough to help me move up in my career, and it really wasn't. And so I was told by a mentor that I needed to be more visible. And so that led to me helping other leaders as a coach, but also writing a book called The Visibility Factor to help other people learn how to do it for themselves, and that it's not as hard as you think, and that you can take little steps every day to really move yourself forward and be more visible to people.
It's amazing how hiding becomes a thing that feels normal. I'm guessing you're probably an introvert as well as myself. I saw a really funny sign. It says, it had a fist like raised, up in the air, and it says, "Introverts unite, all in our own homes."
I love that, especially now during pandemic
I know.
times,
I'm just like, that's just so funny. It's like, yeah, we're all happy, but we're all in our own homes.
Exactly.
But even extroverted people hide. It's just a little bit different. And so to me, that's not necessarily a factor. But what did it look like in your life?
It was interesting because I didn't know I was hiding. So first of all,
Yes.
I thought, I was kind of surprised to hear that. But for me, it was sitting in the back of the room in a meeting. It was not asking for what I wanted, even in my personal life. It was probably giving in on situations where someone wanted to do something and I would give in, or I would think, I'm not smart enough to answer those questions.
Right.
I'm not as good as they are. They may have higher degrees or other types of experiences that I don't have. And so I started to just really, unfortunately, kind of put myself in the background. And it was a safer place to be, right? Because the spotlight wasn't on me.
Right.
No one had to ask me questions. I wouldn't have to answer them. So it made it really easy. But what I didn't realize was happening was that it was affecting my kids and how my kids were showing up. And I've always been someone who probably put myself last because I cared about others and wanting them to be successful. And obviously with my children, I didn't want them to wait until they were in their 40s to figure out that you can speak up, you can ask for what you want, and it's perfectly okay. The other person can say no, that's not on you, that's on them. But I just didn't realize how much it was affecting, everything in my life.
Yes.
And so it was a really big lesson.
Yes. Part of being invisible is part of the factor is like, I remember I was like, I was always in the background. Don't put me center stage, and not even really wanting the recognition that would put me in center stage because it felt so uncomfortable. And not the invisibility factor of it's almost like I don't even know what I want because I'm not giving it time to think about what I want. And somebody'd say, "What you want?" And I go, "Well, what do you want to do?"
Right.
And we and most of the time it was fine, but it causes us to not be us. It causes me to shrink and disappear when our gifts are needed, whatever we're doing, wherever, what part of life we're in an executive field, in a mid-management thing, in a mom taking home with a side business, or whatever we find ourselves in. Our voice is important, and the gifts that we bring to the world are important for us to share. So what happened as you began, and what was the transition? How did you begin to be more visible?
And first of all, I 100% agree with that. The redirect piece was interesting. I found myself doing that quite often where I would redirect to other people. So that is definitely if any of your listeners are doing that, they will, that's a sign that you're, that you have an opportunity to push it back to you. For me, it was a mentor who talked to me and told me that, I wasn't adding value. I wasn't showing up in the best way. And that led me on this journey of what does visibility mean for me? Because I saw the people who were bragging and the people who would,
Mhm.
maybe doing speeches in front of big auditoriums. And I didn't know that I really wanted to pursue some of those things. So I wanted to learn, what could I do to be visible for myself in a way that was authentic for me?
Mhm.
And I started with just observing other people. And what I realized is that they're just offering to help someone. They're offering to do something for someone else.
Mhm.
And just those little things, I thought, well, I can do that. What's the big deal about that? I can offer to help someone. And doing that just gave me some bits of confidence. And then helping my team start to do some of this stuff gave them confidence, which ultimately helped me see, okay, you have to do more of this. You have to keep
Yes.
doing it, and then doing it across the board in my personal life and professional life. It just, my confidence just grew from doing those little things.
One of the things that I noticed that was really big in me was being afraid to fail and being afraid to do it wrong. And we both got coaches, which helped us tremendously because
Mhm.
we cannot go to the level that of gifts that we possess at the same level of thinking we currently have. The other thing is us when we're being invisible is we think we can think our way out of a problem. If I just rehash this enough, I can figure out how to get out of it, but I can't get out of whatever I'm in with the same level of thinking or speaking
Mhm.
about myself and my life and that factor. But one of the things is that fear of failure is I don't want to mess up. I don't want to. And one of the things my coach taught me, and all coaches say this a little different, I'm sure you have yours,
Mhm.
is there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And learning that I didn't learn how to ride a bike the first day, and how do I know how to do whatever it is the first day or the first time? It's like I'm
Right.
going to learn and grow and give space for the people around me, whether family or work teammates and things at work, the space to grow as well. And
Right.
when we would create that kind of environment, it's safe. It creates the safe to be visible and to grow. What do you think about that?
I agree with that. I just had a group of people that I took through a 6 month first manager kind of program. And one of the things that I realized is that they walked into it unconfident, not being visible, afraid to speak up in meetings, afraid to talk, just like you mentioned, afraid of failure. And by the end of it, they were all talking about, I feel so much better about this. I can talk up in meetings. I'm doing these things. And I thought to myself after just reflecting, what was the difference? And I think it was that we created a place of safety for them
Mhm.
to be able to come in and share what didn't work and talk about how to do it differently. I did some role plays with them. I did case studies. I did a bunch of different things with them so that they could start to see everybody does it differently, but you can do it in your way and it's going to work for you. And just like you talked about, I called them little experiments. So take a little, an experiment can fail and it can be successful. Just, anybody who's been in any science class would know that.
Mhm.
And so if you think of it that way, it doesn't seem as scary.
Yeah.
And you know that you're going to have some success out of it or learn from it. And that's what helps you move forward.
One of the things when my coach actually took me through a visibility exercise is determining, because we all have a story we've told about ourselves, and it was determining what did being visible mean to me.
Mhm.
And it's a very, and I'm going to answer it and then I want you to answer. What did being
Okay.
visible prior to this experience mean to you? And for me, growing up in the way that I grew up and everything, being visible meant I was in trouble. Nobody called my name unless I was in trouble. So when I went into the
Mhm.
workforce, if my boss wanted to give me accommodations or another job or an advancement and say, Donna, will you come in the office? My stomach would fall. It's like, oh crap, what did I do wrong? And it was rarely ever, I mean, I don't even remember, maybe one time where there was correction. It was always something positive, but it didn't matter how many times it happened. If they said, Donna, would you come in the office? I just would like want to throw up.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize where it came from. And the other thing being visible meant as a child and growing up is that my mom would give me more work to do. There was more not fun stuff, putting it that way. So being visible was not fun. And being visible was somebody's going to criticize you or you're going to get corrected. You've messed up somewhere and somebody's going to call you out. And so why in the world would I want to be visible? Because and where it came up for me was I was coaching one-on-one and great with that. But you want me to speak in front of groups or to do videos? And I resisted videos forever because I didn't know why, but I wasn't going to be visible. And so learning what being visible really means and go, that isn't true anymore. It isn't really true. The story I've been telling myself isn't really true. What was your story?
Wow. I resonate with all of that. That's amazing. Mine was, I'm the good girl. I am a perfectionist, and so I can't possibly fail. And I actually kind of wore it like a little badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the perfectionist. I do everything really well. I was the oldest of all the kids in my family, and so there was myself, my sister, and my three cousins. And actually four cousins. And for all of those situations, I was the one in charge then. So
Yep.
all the parents could get together and hang out. And so I found like this, and I don't know, this huge weight of responsibility that I
Mm-hmm.
had to make sure everyone was okay and doing things. So I think that's where it started, putting other people first.
Yep.
And then that continued, just like you talked about in school. When you said that, Donna, can you come into the office? I thought about the principal because I
Yeah.
never wanted to be called into the principal's office.
And you probably never were.
No, I never was, but it was the fear of that, right? That could
I
happen, and
know.
I don't want that
I know.
because I have to get up in the middle of class and leave. So yeah, that was yeah. So I took the good girl image and just lived with that, and all the way through school, but then also into the workplace, and continued that same thing where I didn't want to be called out for anything, and
Well,
so I
good
followed
girls
the
don't
rules.
disagree.
Correct. We say yes. We say yes to everything. We never say no.
Yeah.
So we take on too much work, and
Yeah.
we do everything not only at work but at home. I remember working a million hours, and then I would come home and it's the bake sale. So I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
bake cookies or brownies or whatever, or do some costume or some science project with my child. So I think those things,
Yeah.
we just wore these capes like superheroes all the time, and then realize at some point it's not sustainable.
It is not.
You cannot be your best self when you're just totally exhausted because you're doing everything for everyone else and not yourself.
I love your book. I love your book. I'm going to have to get that because we can all learn how to be a little bit more who we really are, because it's a journey.
Yes.
It is, and I've discovered how exciting it is to discover the gifts that God has placed in me,
Mhm.
that as I allow myself to be and to say, oh, and I know as a child, I was called bossy. Well, that was, and I do have strong opinions, but it wasn't okay. So you
Mhm.
stop saying them
Mhm.
and you stop saying what you're thinking. So all of those kind of words, it's like, what is your story around this? And it's probably not still true today, but we're still
Correct.
living as if that little girl going to get called into the principal's office. And we don't want to mess up. And so living in fear instead of confidence and faith causes us to make different choices. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, let's say that they need an executive coach, how would they reach out to you?
Well, you can connect with me on my website, which is susanmbarber.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me there as well and connect with me. I would love to connect with you, at least have a conversation, if nothing else, and just hear your story. Because I think there's so many people, now that the book is out, a lot of people are resonating with their own visibility stories, just like
Mhm.
you. And it's helping people see that they don't have to live with that anymore and recognize that it's a story they've been living with. I don't think I knew that for a really long time. I thought that was just the reality. So
Yes.
as you learn about that, you can start to change that old story out for a brand new one that's
Yes.
helping you play bigger in a much better way.
Playing big. I love that. What can I say yes to today?
Exactly.
What can I say yes
Exactly.
to today? What can I
Mhm.
say yes to myself about? And that might be taking a nap. It might be saying no to the bake sale.
Exactly. I
Just
didn't.
just because
Oh,
I
go
know
ahead.
how doesn't mean I should.
Right. Yes, I can bake, but I don't know that I have to. The one quick story, I was being coached by someone as part of my certification, and she said something to me about, what are you doing for self-care? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. And she said, what do you mean you don't know what that means? I said, I don't know what that means. Like, I have 3 children. I'm doing everything for everybody else. And then I fall into bed at night. That's kind of how this works. So, I've realized that it's so important. So if you're not taking care of yourself and putting yourself first, how
Well,
can
you
you
want to
take care
hear
of
what,
others?
what my coach, one of my coaches said to me is because it was a business coach and we were talking about increasing a revenue, and making goals and things around that nature. She said, Donna, what if your revenue will equal the amount of self-care you do?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
You'll have to
We'd
use
all be
that.
doing it, right?
But you'd have to, you can use that because I thought
Oh,
it was amazing because I'm like, well, no wonder I'm in not making that great of money. Because as an entrepreneur or an executive, it doesn't matter.
right.
Either whatever role you're in, if we're not taking care of ourselves, I am depleted and I do not do the rest of what I'm doing to 100%. I cannot.
Correct. I
And
love
so
that.
to me is think about that every week is like my level of self-care is going to equal the amount of service, if we want to use that as far as instead of revenue, because
Mhm.
service, helping people equals income. It's just
Exactly.
solving problems. But if I'm not taking care of me, I don't have the capacity to be able to do it at 100%. So yeah, that was a
That's
jarring one
amazing. I
where I'm
love
just like,
that.
oh crap.
Wow. That's a big wake up moment, isn't it?
Yes. So that was
Oh,
good. So
amazing.
how would they be able to find the visibility factor on Amazon?
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy
Okay.
ebooks, and the paperbacks are all available there too. The audiobook is coming out soon. I'm listening to the recordings right now and going through and making some edits on that, and then that'll be out as well. So you'll be able to get Audible or audiobook wherever you get those from.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sue, for sharing
Thank
your story of
you.
visibility. We all need to be, we were designed for greatness. I need to be me. And
Right,
so thank
exactly.
you for sharing your story, for writing your book, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a
Thank you
pleasure to
so
talk with you
much.
today.
Thank you.
Wasn't that a lovely conversation with Sue today? Get her book, The Visibility Factor, no matter where you are in your life. That will be a huge impact and blessing to you. And if you have some areas where you feel like you're hiding, that you've noticed that it's not quite what you want it to be, and you want to discover what it is, I help caring women rise above the pain and disappointment of life and even a very traumatic childhood to be able to create the life they have always dreamed and be who they really are. Because I believe in you. You were designed for greatness. And let's be the best you or me that we can be. So until next time, keep breathing, take care of yourself, and live vibrantly. Bye for now.